Okay, so we're back. I feel like it's been a long time, even though it's only been like we only missed 1 week, I think. But right? Yeah, I think we only missed 1 week. Oops, sorry. We are on Mishlei Yud Aleph Vav 11:6. Okay, and let's see. Do we have anyone here who is willing to volunteer to read first? I don't think so. So I'll go ahead and read and translate. Tzidkas Yasharim Tatzilim Uva Havas, I think Havas Bogdim Yilachedu. Okay, so the righteousness of Yasharim. Okay, and we'll go with our usual translation of Yasharim, but obviously this is gonna the whole shiur is gonna revolve around yashar, right? Like we've been talking about. The righteousness of Yasharim, the upright, will save them. Okay. Uvahavas bogdim yalakedo. Okay, so difficult words all around here. So hava is a word for either desire, chasm, or destruction, or ruin, something like that. But I actually when I saw this word, I remembered we did this last year in pasuk 10:3, and there we used. Oh, hold on just a second. I got to save this in the right way. Almost forgot. Analysis notes. Yeah, so there we translated it as either being, possessions, desire, or destructiveness slash breaking. Okay, so if it's being, possessions, desire comes from the word like haya, like being, or hoveh, and but it could also mean destructiveness or breaking. Okay, so let's just say hava and then put this asterisk here. Okay, and you could just insert whichever one you feel like works out. Okay, of bogdim. So bogdim are. Do we? Anyone remember how we translated bogdim? Not the definition, but the translation. Traitors.
Traitor.
Yeah, okay, yeah, of traitors. Okay, and again, that's another like buzzword here, or a key term or Mishleic archetype. Yila kedu. They will, I guess, yilachedu, they will be ensnared, I think. Okay, let's just see what we have here. Yeah, seized. Oh, sorry, that's not how you spell ensnared. Captured actually is a better one. Yeah, they will be captured. Okay. Yeah, capture, seize, entrapment. Okay, entrapped is actually pretty good also. Yeah, because you do use the word for locaid, like to besiege a city. So captured or entrapped, let's say. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have here. Okay, again, this is gonna take some work here. Mitsuas Sion goes with Havuos is inyan shavira. It means breaking. Kamo medaber havos. Okay, so he says breaking. Sad Yugon says v'harashaim yala kedu b'havuasam. So he says in their hava. Okay, so depending on how you translate hava, he reverses the words. Okay, they will be entrapped. The wicked. Oh, and he also changes it to wicked, right? Wow, that's weird. He changes Bogdan to wicked. The wicked will be captured or entrapped in their hava. Oops.
I'd be curious to see if he did that last time as well.
Yeah. Let's actually look. Sadia Gaon. Oops. This always happens. Hold on. Good call. Sadia Gaon Mishlei. There we go. So the last pasuk that used bogeid was earlier in the parak. It was, where are we here? Okay. Pasuk Gimel, and in Gimel, he did not. Okay. I think,
Interesting.
yeah, I think I actually, I stumbled when I was preparing the Mefarshim, I stumbled upon an answer to that question, not knowing it was a question. Okay. I know he translated it that way. Okay. And then the Targum says, Tzit kasahon ditmime to taret or chase uvrish nafel risha. Hold on. I think I actually got the wrong Targum. Just 1 second. I think I actually got it from the puzzle we did last time. Let me just make sure. No. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. This is very strange. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, the reason why I'm thinking this is weird is the last pasuk said hold on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Last pasuk. Oh, whatever. Let's just forget the talking about this. This is like he basically like translates the second half the same way as the last pasuk, but we have enough problems on our plate here. Okay, art scroll. The righteousness of the just will rescue them, but the faithless will be trapped in the destruction. And then in brackets, they plotted. Okay, so they translate it as the just. I don't like, I mean, it's not that I'm opposed to yashar as just, but I think that like we have the word mishpat for justice, and we also have the word tzedek sometimes for justice. So to loosely translate yashar as just, to me, just like blurs lines. But they are taking a stance on havas, which is destruction, and then they add in that they plotted. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Living Nach says the righteousness of the upright saves them, but the treacherous are trapped by their destructive ways. Okay, that's good. So they translate as destructive ways. Destructiveness, same thing. And Alter says the upright's innocence saves them. Innocence, but in disasters are traitors ensnared. Okay, I don't like innocence because innocence, if anything, would be like translation of Tom, right?
Yeah,
like,
I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, I don't know what made them do that. All right,
But
so
I'm also curious if he's being consistent.
right, I don't think he has. Actually, I have him right here. I can tell you. Yeah. So in pasuk Gimel, which is the last one where we said traitors, he said, "The upright's innocence guides them." Let me just, let me share the whole screen here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let me share this. So he translates Gimel as Tumas Yasharim Tanchem, the upright's innocence will guides them. So he does translate Yashar as upright. And in our pasuk, he translated it as the upright's innocence saves them. Yeah, he's just glossing over the fact that it uses a completely different word. Bad form. Okay, I don't like it. All right, so we're done with him. Okay, for this pasuk. Okay, so in case you hadn't noticed, give me a second. Yeah, so in case you hadn't noticed, our pasuk, and it's actually good that we had a break because our pasuk here is suspiciously similar. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these also for now. I'm just going to move them. Suspiciously similar to our previous, hold on, the pasuk we did 2 weeks ago. Okay, so here's our pasuk 11:6, and then 11:5 says Tzidkas tamim teyasher darko uverish aso yipol rasha. The righteousness of the tam will straighten his way, and in his wickedness the wicked person will fall. Now it's not exactly the same because our pasuk tonight does not have tam in it. But it does talk about Tzidkas Tamim and Tzidkas Yasharim, the righteousness of each of these people. And then we have the bogeid from pasuk 3 and being inserted here. And you can see why Sadigon kind of translated it as the wicked because it is very similar to the previous pasuk. And in fact, do you remember the hilarious Radak I showed you last time? Radak said on the previous pasuk, Mavurahu. This is obvious. So he's consistent because on our pasuk he says kafal inyan b'milashonos. It repeats the same idea in different words. Okay, but then he adds a little bit of interpretation, and it's not even enough interpretation for me to count it as a commentary. I think it's just showing the relationship of the words in the pasuk. Klomar elu yinatzlu b'zchusam ve'elu yikashlu b'risham. These will be saved in their merit, meaning I think their good qualities, and these will stumble in their wickedness. So, but the point is that the Radak is just like yawn, just like these, it's just same old.
How can he be satisfied with that? Like, how can he?
I was actually going to ask you guys that before we analyze the pasuk. Okay, like how can the Radak be so comfortable saying, the pasuk is just repeating the same idea in different words? And the Radak, there are commentators who would feel comfortable with this. Radak is not one of them. Radak is someone who, in any of his other commentaries, he's okay saying that a word will repeat itself, but just saying strings of pasukim will repeat themselves, like it's a little not Radaki, in my opinion. So can we be malamed zechus on the Radak? Can we come up with a defense of how the Radak can be okay saying that Mishlei will just repeat itself, within 3 pasukim, just all saying the same thing? And just to give you the full effect, let me just read the string of pasukim that we've been working on that just all together, okay? Just so you can get the whole picture. So starting from the first pasuk we did with the Tom, Tumas Yasharim Tanchem, the Selef Bogim Yeshadim. The Tom quality of the upright will guide them, and the corruption of the traitors will destroy them.
Any chance we could paste that too, by the way? You know how you have the
You mean into the document?
Yeah.
Copy and paste it? Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let's copy this. Yeah, you know what I should do actually? Let me do this. Let me put all the Hebrew and then all the English together for all of these, and I'll use the translations that we actually used last time. Hold on here. Mishlei 1103 analysis notes. Oh man, that's a messy translation, but that's the nature of these psukim. No one ever said Mishlei would be easy. Actually, Shlomo kind of no, he didn't say it was easy. He would just say that everyone can learn it. Okay. Hold on here. Oh, by the way, this is gonna be messy. Okay. Sneak peek at what I think the route we're gonna take tonight. We've been really developing the Rabbeinu Yonah, so I think we're gonna obviously approach the pasuk like we do on our own first, but I think we've been doing really well with the Rabbeinu Yonah. I would like to see what he has to say here. Okay, so that was number 3. Oh, sorry. You know what? I guess I didn't realize I'm not sharing the whole screen. Okay, let me just share the whole screen. Sorry about that. Okay, so Tumas Yasharim Tanchim V'Selach Bogi Mishadem. 4 was Lo Yo Ilhon Biyom Evra Utstaka Tatil Mimaves. Okay, so let's go with 11:4. Yeah, I really should have done this ahead of time. I didn't think that this would be necessary, but I think it is a good idea. Okay, so 11:4. Okay, I feel sorry. I'll say this so that people can. I feel sorry if this is anyone's first exposure to Mishlei. This is like I said, this is like, I think I said this last time. This is like a real workout. These psukim here, not for the faint of heart. If this is your first time on Mishlei, give it another chance. Just pick any other Mishlei to learn that's not in chapter 11. Okay, so that was this. Okay, so now we got all 3 of them. Okay, so let's just read this again. Tumas Yasharim Tanchim, the Tom quality of Yasharim, and I'm just going to go ahead and just for the sake of making this shorter, I think we're comfortable with Hebrew now. The Tom quality of Yasharim will guide them or lead them. I think we went with guide maybe, but the crookedness of Bogdim will devastate them. Okay, and let's just make this all in one line. Boom. Okay. Then we had Loyo Ilhon Biom Evra Utstaka Tatami Mavis. Wealth will not benefit on a day of fury. And Tzedakah, okay, from Tzaddik, okay, Tzedakah, okay, righteousness saves from death. Okay, then we had last time Tzidkas Tamim, the righteousness of the Tam, Tiyashar Darko will straighten his way, will make it Yashar. Okay. Uvarish aso, make it yashar. Uvarish aso, and in his wickedness, Yipol Rasha. Okay, and now we have our pasuk, which we'll put below here. Okay. The righteousness of Yasharim will save them, and the being / possession / desires or destructiveness. Let's go with destructiveness first, because I think that was the more common one. Of traitors, yeah, you know what, I think let's just put in the hava'ah of traitors, they will be captured and trapped. And I'm going to support this with something. Hold on just one second. If you look at the Meiri here says Sivkas Yasharim Tatilem Uvavos Bogdim Yalachedu Vuhu Chaser Os Omila. He says this pasuk is missing either a letter or a word. V'haroi, the proper way to read it is Bihavasam Bogdim Yalachedu. In the destructiveness of the Bogdim, they will be ensnared. O B'havas Maaseim, or in the destructiveness of their actions. So I'm comfortable adding a word here because it seems like a lot of them are adding words. Yeah. Okay, and now we can get rid of the Radak, and we can ask our questions here. Okay, sorry about that. Tough stuff.
One just question before we proceed is: Are we trying to include pasuk Daled in our cross analysis here?
You mean because it doesn't directly mention the Tom or the Yashar?
Yeah.
I I don't think we should be trying or not trying to do anything. I think that we should be open to the fact that that pasuk does appear in this context. And I think I really don't remember ideas. I think we did unify that with the theme when we did that pasuk.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't there that week, so that's why I was asking that.
Yeah. I think we did, but I'm not going to go ahead and try to reconstruct it now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So what are our questions here? And let's try to for our question part.
You had the question you wanted to ask beforehand, right? Which is how the Radak was comfortable.
Oh yes, thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So even before we analyze this, how is the Radak totally fine saying that like essentially these these are all just repetitions of the same idea? I don't think he said that by 4. Like, how is that okay? How is that legit?
Maybe it's a commentary on like who he thinks the audience is for this particular segment.
Okay, I mean that is definitely possible. I just feel like it is I don't know. Like, does that mean that the pasuk is only written for that audience?
I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
it could be that there's a certain kind of audience that it's maybe also targeting that needs to hear the message more than once.
Right.
Like I know there was
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just know that there was like a study, like young children learn a lot more through repetition. Not saying that this is for young children, but like maybe there's a type of audience that needs that.
Right. So I think that you have to say something like that, right? You have to say that whenever, like Rabbi Moskowitz always says, whenever you see repetition, it's not for the mind, because the mind only needs to see an idea once in order to, to understand it. But the emotions need to be impacted by the idea from many different angles in many different ways, and repetition. And the Torah itself does this. I mean, that's the famous thing that Chazal say that I'm sure they say this in a lot of places, but the most extreme example is that the Torah in one place says "V'ahavta l're'echa kamocha," you should love your fellow like yourself, and then in 36 places says stresses the love of the stranger. So like, why? Because that is much more necessary. It's very easy to love someone who is similar to you, but to love someone who's different from you takes a lot of reinforcement, and there's a lot of resistances to that. So yeah, Ricky.
Okay, so number one on that, like, let's say if we were going with that approach and we're saying that like it's because we need that repetition in order to truly understand and let the ideas be ingrained in our heads, then I just don't understand what's so different about this idea or these pasukim versus literally all of Mishleic.
I know, right? It seems like there are a lot of other good candidates for repetition. Yeah. And also, like, we do see, I've seen, and I think even in this shiur, we've seen pasukim that are similar, but they're not right next to each other, they're scattered throughout, and the wording, might be slightly different. So yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, this is one step. Like, you have to say that this is for the emotions in some way. But there's something that is still, I don't know, something still unsatisfying about that.
Yeah, and my second question was just on that, like you just said, like that there are different wordings. So I was also thinking, like, even though the ideas do sound the same or similar in that the characters are the same, like there are different words. So I feel like we've had pasukim before that they have like similar wording or ideas, but then you get like a chiddush from like a new word. So I don't know.
But that's what we're going to try to find out. We're asking what the Radak is doing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like Radak knows how to do that also. Like he's pretty good at learning ideas.
Yeah, so I guess that's why I don't understand, like, if there are nuances, like it's not verbatim.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And in fact, it's funny because like I think we saw I think we've seen one pasuk that is verbatim. Oh no, I know what we saw. We saw a pasuk in Mishlei about the scales that was a repetition of the pasuk in the Torah. And there the Rabbeinu Yonah said, we don't need Shlomo Melech to come along and repeat what's in the Torah. Well, we also don't need Shlomo Melech to come along and repeat what he himself said, but that only applies if he actually repeats himself literally. But here it's sufficiently different. Yeah.
I have a thought, which is because the Radak elaborates a little bit in the last commentary. He says that like he's repeating himself, but he's like that. But then he clarifies that he's not necessarily repeating himself exactly. He's repeating a concept that, like, you'll I forget his wording exactly, but like that the
in their merit they will be saved, and then the Rashayim in their stumbling block they will be trapped or something.
Yeah, like so he's basically saying like this idea, which arguably is like all of Mishlei, but he's saying is that like this idea is the theme, and he's really just repeating himself with like different examples or different nuances that maybe help the emotional aspect, but he's not necessarily saying that there's no difference in terms of the case examples he's offering.
Right. So maybe what you can say, okay, I don't know. Okay, you inspired an idea. I don't think what I'm about to say is what you're saying, but I don't know. Check this out. So Sidkas Tamim to Yashar Darko, Uvarishaso Yipo Rasha, right? So the righteousness of the Tamim will straighten the path, and then in his wickedness, the Rasha will fall. So that is very similar to Tzidkas Yasharim Tatzilem and Havos Rishon Bogdim Yilachedu. So maybe the idea is that he's trying to intentionally draw your attention to a parallel, and that even though the personalities, the internal dynamics are different, then the same thing will happen to them as a result of the internal dynamics. Like let's say, for example, this is the first example that comes to my mind. And I guess, you know what? Wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I realize I almost stumbled into giving an interpretation of our pasuk. So let's put this question on hold, analyze the pasuk the way we usually do, and then try to come back and see if we can answer for the Radak or for for the question that we had on the Radak. Okay, so let's ask our questions here, and I feel like these will be a lot of definition questions. Okay, lay them on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just was at the moment of silence.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Moment of silence. Well, see, I get out of practice for a week, and
I muted for a sec, so I wasn't sure if you said that. But
wait. What do we usually do? We usually come up with questions. Right?
Questions now. Now it's questions.
Okay, now it's questions. Yeah. Sorry. Wow. Okay. Whew. It's been too long. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I guess it's like we kind of mentioned it before in terms of what is this destruction or breaking or whatever, is this from them, or what kind of situation is this? Is it their own like self-inflicted destruction?
Destruction. Is it like what causes it? Yeah. Also, it's strange. Like, hold on. When I first read it, I thought it was they get destroyed, but it sounds like the destructiveness that they do, because they're getting ensnared, and maybe you can get ensnared in your destructiveness. Yeah, maybe destructiveness. Yeah. What causes it? What is its relationship to the snare? Yeah. If you have a question, just ask. I can't see everyone's hand.
What exactly is being destroyed? What exactly is being captured? Because the wording sounds a little bit ambiguous. Like it could be the traitors, or it can even be the destruction that's being captured.
Yeah. So what is being destroyed? What is to the capture or entrapment? Basically, what's the second half saying? Right? What is the consequence in the second half? Basically, what is the consequence in the second half? Yeah. Well, I think the question we need to ask here for the first half, we need to ask, what is the righteousness of the Yasharim? Okay, because we've had the tamness of the yashar, we've had the righteousness of the tam, and now we have the righteousness of the yashar. Okay, so what is the righteousness of the Yasharim, right? And then
meaning like that. Just to elaborate that question, are you saying like as opposed to regular righteousness, specifically the righteousness of the yashar?
I was not thinking that, but that's a good way to ask it. Like, what is the difference between or relationship between regular righteousness,
If there is a difference.
Yeah. What? Yeah, that's why I'm including that in the slash here. Relationship between righteousness of the Yasharim. Okay. And then also included in this is I'm just gonna have these questions just because we do need to review this at least. What is yashar? And I'm including that same question because we've already done a couple of pasukim with yashar, so this is a reminder. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, can you just explain when you said like difference or relationship, like how would it be not a different, like how would it be a relationship but not a difference?
Because it might be that yeah, Zach, you want to answer that?
If they're the same, maybe, then they're not different in their relationship.
And why would it say it in this pasuk? Like, why would it say like Sadiqat Yasharim? I don't understand.
Meaning, like, there's a concept of righteousness, and when you take a generic concept of righteousness that a yashar has XYZ.
Yeah, meaning like let's say, for example, righteousness only referred to action. Okay, then a yashar doing that action wouldn't be different if done by a yashar or done by a tzaddik, but it's just our pasuk is talking about a yashar, and that's why it's saying the righteousness of a yashar. Yeah. Okay, I mean, I feel like, what question do we ask on Tatzi Lame? We'll save them.
How will they save them?
Save them from what?
Yeah, so first save them from what?
I don't know if Michael Zolden knows that you don't read the chats, I believe, during share,
okay,
but
yes.
he asked the question of what's the contrast between a yashar and a traitor? Okay,
that's a good question. So wait, hold on a second. How will their righteousness save them? Okay, and then what is the relationship between Yasharim and Bogdan? Yeah. And we might as well ask, what are Bogdan? Yeah. Let me just put this in the right order here. I feel like this is way fewer questions than I expected. I think it's because we are kind of economizing, consolidating the questions. Yeah, these are all basically these are definition questions here. I think we do need to ask our usual question about the audience and the practical purpose. Now, I think we kind of have established here that the general audience has been someone who is could become either, like who's potentially becoming both of them, but we'll ask it just to be responsible Mishlei learners. Who is the audience of this pasuk? What is the practical application?
Also, saving them is ambiguous too, like saving from what, saving from who?
Yeah, that we got here. Okay, so are we ready for our thinking?
Wait, are we saying like the obvious question of like what the difference between this is and then like the rest of the pasukim about?
Yeah, we'll add that here also. Yeah. What does this add to the foregoing similar pasukim? Yeah. Okay. Let us think. Now, actually, before we think, I'm of two minds here because I don't know who has been here for which previous pasukim. So if you have not been here and don't have like ideas about what a yashar is and what a bogeid is, don't let that stop you. In fact, like go ahead and like try to figure it out on your own, and like maybe that'll bring fresh blood into the I was gonna say into the waters, but that's like a shark analogy. That's not what we want here. Maybe that'll bring like fresh ideas into the topic, and maybe that'll develop us. But if you already do have ideas of a yashar and a tzaddik and a bogeid, feel free to like develop those, because again, usually we're against plugging stuff in, but clearly Rabbeinu Yonah is taking this as one unit, and like we are building on what we learned last time. So don't let your prior experience or lack of prior experience stop you or influence the way you feel self-conscious about the way you're thinking. Okay, back to thinking.
Should we? What's more important, to have the questions showing or have the other pasukim showing?
I think the questions, because I think I want to focus on this pasuk to start off with. Yeah, if you want, I don't know what this is going to look like. I can just copy and paste this into the chat. It might be really, really messy.
Yeah, that'd be cool though.
Let's try it. Oh, there's lots of stuff going on in the chat that I don't look at. Okay. It's messy, but it'll have to do. Hold on. I'll at least put spaces here. Space, space, space. There you go. Okay. Oh, sorry. Back to the questions. I'm just adding to question 2. Save them from what? Why would they be in danger in the first place? Alrighty. Now, as we come up with ideas here, I think it'll be a good idea to, if you have a definition of any of the definitional terms, state it at the outset so we can keep track of different different definitions here. But who has anything here? It's a tough one.
Are you asking for ideas?
Yeah, ideas. Yeah, half-baked ideas first.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking literally based off of what you just said about like save them from what, or like why they would be in danger in the first place. That I was thinking that maybe we can say that the Yasharim are in danger from whatever the Bogdan, meaning like
that's interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like that would also be a good way to relate the two, and like that would answer the question of what the relationship is between both of them. And I think like maybe you can contrast the Yasharim versus people that aren't like righteous Yasharim, and then see like what the outcomes would be.
Right. That's very interesting. Right. So that is the most, we are fans of conservative interpretations of the pasuk, where you're not positing anything beyond the pasuk itself. And here, what's the only threat in the pasuk is the destructiveness of the Bogdan, So it is reasonable to assume that maybe that'll, like you do kind of have to wonder that, that I mean, we know what the outcome is when a tzaddik meets up with a rasha, the tzaddik's going to win. Okay, right? I think we've had something about that before. We have not yet seen what happens when a yashar meets up with a bogeid, so that's what yeah.
The way Rifki just phrased something kind of sparked a question.
Sure.
Which is, and it might only be a question for Rabbeinu Yonah's definition of a yashar, but she said like we could compare it to a yashar without righteousness. And I'm wondering, is it possible, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, because by definition it's someone who's pursuing righteousness, so it's just interesting to me.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so that's actually an important move here. So should we like review? See, I really don't know how to approach these things. Should we review the definitions we have, or is that going to stifle us?
I'm not sure either, to be honest.
Okay.
Can I propose that we do it after?
Sure.
Okay. Also, I have.
Thank you for taking a stand.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Present your half-baked goods.
Okay. So let's say that there's some sort of like middle ground. Not yashar, not traitors, not whatever, but we can call it like maybe it's tumness. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And then the bogdim, they are traitors to themselves. So they're not just like just traitors, but the treacherous actions that they do is giving into their desires, and that is what captures them. And it's kind of like a vicious cycle. Right. And then the yasharim are saved because they're using their righteousness or their like rationale or whatever to steer clear and actually think about things logically rather than just give in to desires.
Okay, so the second half I think fits in really well. I cheated and I reviewed Zach's notes from 2 weeks ago that he posted in the chat. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to pull them up right now, but the bogeid is, like Avigal said, a traitor they're traitors to themselves, which is that they allow their desires to take over their thinking and to influence it, and they get caught up in their own desire. So that actually fits in better with this translation, right? They're the desires of the wicked will ensnare them. Oh, sorry, the bogdim will ensnare them. So that I can understand. Okay, right? That's just classic Mishlei. Okay, but now the question is, how does the righteousness of the Yasharim save them, and then save them from what? And then what do the two halves have to do with each other, according to this approach? So I'm liking, like, this is a good solid like anchor point. We have something we understand in the pasuk.
Is it worth pointing out like comparison questions at this point
to the other pasukim?
Yeah.
I think not. I think it's going to confuse us. It's going to confuse me. Yeah.
I guess I had an idea kind of similar to Rivki's.
Sure.
Which is that I guess because in the second half, when it says Yalachedu, it's very unclear who they are.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if you just say that they are the Yasharim, and that because of the destructiveness of the traitors, that will ensnare the Yasharim, and then that's what they're being saved from as well.
So that fits in well with the Meiri's advice, which is you kind of have to add a word, which is that like, okay, here's how I would say it according to the way Avi's saying it right now is the righteousness of the Yasharim will save them despite the destructiveness of the bogdims, despite the destructive efforts of the bogdim to ensnare them, right? In other words, it's the second half is spelling out what it's saving them from the first half from. But then I like the move you're making with ensnare them, because so then according to that, the whole pasuk would be about the Yasharim, and not really the bogdim really would then just be like objects in the pasuk, not subjects. Like that's the threat that this saves them from. Yeah, that could work. And by the way, this would actually be an interesting thing, because according to this, you would not have to say that bogeid and yashar are opposites. The only thing you would need to say is that bogdim are going to prey upon yasharim, not that like the traits are opposites or the personalities are opposites.
Wait, in this approach, are we limiting it only to on yasharim, or can it also still be like other people?
Can what be other people?
Like you were saying that they would prey on the yasharim.
Oh, you know what? When you ask that, it makes me realize that oh, no, never mind. I was gonna say, wouldn't it be interesting if the saves them was exclusively other people and they don't need to save themselves? But no, I think we do have to say that the Yasharim is talking about saving themselves, and it seems like this is something that only they can do.
No, I thought. Hold on. Can you clarify what you were saying before? Because I think I'm just confused about the last point you said.
Well, what Avi was saying was that, if I understood it correctly, is that the destructiveness of the bogdim is the bogdim are trying to ensnare the Yasharim, but the righteousness of the Yasharim is going to save them from the bogdim. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was asking if like the bogdim are only targeting the Yasharim.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right. I see. That is possible. It's possible that they're targeting other people also.
Right. I guess it could be either one. You could say either they're only targeting the Yasharim, or you could say they're targeting everyone, but the Yasharim will be saved and other people won't.
Right. Abigail, what did you say again? Oh yeah, you said the thing about the second half, right? So then, according to Abigail was saying that the second half is saying the desires of the bogdim will ensnare them, and so then the question was, according to that approach, what is the first half saying?
I mean, can we say that it's like the exact opposite, like not giving into your desires, kind of being rational, like the righteousness of humanity? Like,
well, the difficulty here is that righteousness, we've seen righteousness to be, and this is part of our, okay, we saw from all of chapter 10, but then also the theory we've been developing here, righteousness seems to be about how you interact with others, and like, you know, how you relate to the system. And yashar is really describing your own internal values. So it's not that your idea is inherently problematic. It's just that it goes against everything we've been saying, you know? Yeah. I feel like it's time to review our definitions. I can't help but think in terms of those definitions at this point. So it's possible we can try other ideas, but unless we get this out of our system, and by we, I mean, like, I need to get this out of my system. Okay, so let's just review our terms here, okay? Yashar, Yasharim, okay, are, anyone want to either cheat or remember?
Well, I mean, I have just notes from previous weeks. Should I share those? Or?
So I'm going to try doing it based on the way I would formulate it, and you tell me if there's anything significant that's different. So unless anyone else wants to try. So Yasharim are those whose desires are in line with their intellects, which are in line with righteousness. Righteousness, right? So in other words, their emotions are in line with their mind, and their mind is in line with righteousness, and which means that they have to actually know what righteousness is. And that was Rabbeinu Yonah's big point, that you cannot be called a yosher unless you know what righteousness is and what chachma is. Is that?
I really like that summary definition. Very
good,
impressive.
Okay, yeah, I mean
that was like a paragraph of notes I had in life.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's good. Okay, tzedek or tzedakah, right? Righteousness is that which is in line with the needs of the components of the system. Okay, and that's obviously subject to degree, meaning the tzedakah, maximum tzedakah would be everything in the system gets everything that it needs, but like as a value is you're trying to bring. Let me just make it better. Bringing the components of a system in line with their systemic needs. Is that okay? I hope so. Okay. Bogeid, Bogdan. Yeah.
Sorry, with the tzaddik, there's like two things. One is what are systemic needs? Like, I just find that a little confusing. And the second point I just wanted to point out is that couldn't we consider like a tzaddik act, even if it's not, I think you said this when in like verbally, but I'm just in reading, like even if it's just for a person, like just not them.
Sorry, I got distracted by something that I was going to bring up. Hold on, say it one more time.
So just the last point I was saying is that couldn't it be also, if it's not for the whole system, but just like for someone else, meaning just doing good for, like prioritizing someone else's needs that's not their own?
Yeah, but I think to me, an essence of the tzaddik is that he does think systemically. So even when he's trying to bring about someone's individual needs, he is thinking in terms of the impact on the entire system.
It's interesting because my view put the focus kind of on the opposite, meaning like,
I see where you get that from. The mitzvah in the Torah supports your structure, your definition, because the mitzvah of tzedakah in the Torah is de machsoro asher yachar lo, is that you provide the poor person with everything that he needs, and you don't really think about the system as a whole. I think I can argue that even though that's the form of the mitzvah, that's in order to fully rehabilitate the individual, because that makes him most capable of being in line with the system. But
I would argue that for the system to work best, it just needs everybody to like take the focus outside of themselves. It doesn't need everybody to have a system bird's eye view.
Okay, so I think that according to Rabbeinu Yonah, you do need the system bird's eye view, because he puts the emphasis on the knowledge that's necessary. That
it could be knowledge of bringing someone else's needs above your own.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, this is an interesting philosophical question. Like not just philosophical, it's an interesting Mishleic philosophical question. Like for example, if a tzaddik. See, here's a thought experiment: is let's say you have a bunch of people and who have various material needs, and so will the tzaddik content himself with just providing all of their material needs, and then that's it, or will the tzaddik view that as a means to then, like, he'll be like, okay, now I'm in the best position for all of these things to integrate together in a way that like creates sustainable benefit for everybody.
And I think he'll always be pushing boundaries to help people, and I don't think he'll stop at some point and be like, well, I covered one need, so I don't have to look at the rest. But I don't know that he has to have all the needs in mind to the fullest extent. I'd argue that's like hardly possible, but I think that someone who's able just to focus on the needs of those that are visible to him is already in the tzaddik mode. And if someone could go further, then great. But
right,
the emphasis is on outside of themselves.
So I'm fine keeping it like this, bringing the components of a system in line with their needs. That's an awkward way to say it. Fulfilling the needs of the components of a system, and I'll get my little systemic reference in there through that tagging on the end. By the way, the thing I was smiling about, which I realize I haven't made the declaration formally here. So last year was the year of the wolves in terms of my obsession with wolves. This year there's a new obsession in town, and this is a very recent obsession, but it is it's growing, or should I say expanding. This year the obsession is fungi, or fungi as they're said, and the statement that I was thinking about is fungi are the tzaddikim of the ecosystems. So maybe we'll have another shiur on that later on in the year. Okay, but I was just thinking about that based on this definition here. Okay, bogdim are those whose intellects have been hijacked by their desires to their detriment. Okay. So, does that help us? Let's.
Okay. Are we doing the other definitions or just keeping it here?
I still want to just make sure. I just want to give this a try now that we see the definitions out here. Let's just give our pasuk a try first, one more time, and then we can. And then then what I want to do is I want to go to the Rabbeinu Yonah and see how he learns it, and then we can try to make sense of everything. So the righteousness of the Yasharim will save them. Let's just focus on that for a second here. And I'm going to take a step back and say I don't know what we're saving them from yet. Okay, so what does it mean that the Yasharim do righteousness, and what is the difference between the yashar doing righteousness and an ordinary person doing righteousness? And I think here we can differentiate, because any individual could do tzedakah, right? And the tzedakah, if you force a 10-year-old kid to do tzedakah, so his tzedakah is not stemming from from knowledge of the good, or from his emotions being in line with his intellect, and seeing how everything fits in the system. He's just doing it. So he is doing righteousness. Oh, Zach, maybe you're right. Because here we have tzedakah tatil mimaves, tzedakah saves from death, and that seems to be any tzedakah. This is the tzedakah of the Yasharim has a special saving quality. So it's funny, tzedakah saves from death, but the tzedakah of the Yasharim saves them seemingly more than from death. Like tzedakah tatil mimaves means like, it focuses on death there. Yeah. See, this is when I wish we had notes. That I could just like consult the notes for the. I wonder if I can. We did try to get into the habit of me recording a last minute summary, like at the end of each year. Let me just check and see if I can find. I guess I'm not subscribed to my podcast. Embarrassing. Let me just go here.
That's great.
Mishlei podcast. Let me just see if I can look at the last minute and see if we can if I had a summary on
this
and
not giving it out. Versus
Ariel.
tzedakah is you're having your wealth and you're giving.
Right.
Let's call it quits for tonight. And I'm not. Unless someone has something specific for after party purposes, I think I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
Let's see if we review.
Have a question that came up.
Oh no, that was all right. I guess that was post review. Let me just see if there's a review.
Oh, okay. All right. So it works then. Good. All righty.
No. Okay. Never mind. We're on our own. We can't help ourselves. Our past selves can't help us. Yeah. You see the problem. Let me just state the problem that we have here. Not the problem, but so I think we do need to do what Zach said, which is that we have this phrase in 11:4, tzedakah saves from death, and that's anybody's tzedakah saves only from death. But then we have our pasuk, tzidkas Yasharim saves. The righteousness specifically of the Yasharim will save, presumably from more than just death. And we're trying to find a way to harmonize those things.
Meaning you already started doing that, right? Saying like the difference between a regular righteous act and a righteous act of a yashar is the mindset of doing so. Meaning like they're really desiring to do that, rather than just like coming to terms or deciding to do it.
Yeah. So let me try talking that out a little bit more. That there's gonna I don't know if this is gonna make any sense. Okay, so if it doesn't, then just tell me. There's gonna be something that is static or artificial about a regular person's tzedakah, about a non-yashar's tzedakah. He can force himself to do tzedakah, let's say because of the mitzvah, or he can, if someone points out to him this would be an opportunity for tzedakah, then he could do that. But because he doesn't have an understanding of
Can I jump in? Because
Sure.
I think rather than going that far, I think we could even like draw the line like closer to the yashar and just say that even if a person totally intellectually understands why something's good and why it's beneficial, that doesn't necessarily make them a yashar. A yashar is someone who's achieved a point where their desires are now subject to it. So when they're doing something good, they're truly like completely like excited by it.
Right.
And even if you intellectually understand something and like want to do something, there's a difference between having your desires fueling that and figuring out how to manage your desires so you can do what you think is good.
Right. So I think it's important to emphasize though that you need both. That there are people who have a tremendous desire to do tzedakah, but if they don't understand how to assess people's needs or they don't understand the system, then their desire could even lead to harm. And conversely, or whatever the proper logical phrase is, then if they have the understanding of it without the desire, then they're not going to be driven. But so that's what I mean by like this passive or static or artificial, whatever word you want to use. You can make a person do tzedakah, and it might have this benefit of saving you from death. I think what we said for that was that because this was talking about on a day of fury, which means like when disaster strikes, so let's say you have a guy who like, I don't know, let's say you have a guy who donates to his like neighborhood fund or whatever, consistently every day for 10 years. And he's not doing it in a yashar way. He's just like giving the resources. So when disaster strikes, people are going to want to help him because he has benefited them and like a reciprocal thing, so that'll save him from like the death that comes about on a day of disaster. And I think we actually, now it's coming back to me. I think we learned that pasuk to mean that if you withhold your money, that's what the first half is talking about. So then, you can be like in your mansion withholding your money, but then when disaster strikes, who are they going to come after? They're going to come after you because you're just like holding on to this stuff, But now you compare that to the yashar, who not only understands what people's needs are, but is actively desiring to do that and actually doing it. So that's going to like get him out of many situations that, because he's going to be.
Wow. Yeah. Actually, there's a study that I think backs up where you're going with this. Okay. And I'm not sure if we talked about this ever Mishlei before. I think we did a long time ago, but they did an interesting study. I think it was with medical school students.
Yeah.
And they assessed them according to 3 categories: those that were takers, those that were traitors, and those that were givers.
Traders, not Bogdan, traders.
Yeah. People that like kept the status quo, let's say, like took and gave in equal measure. And by the end of, let's say, their degree, the people who were takers were ahead and the people who were givers were behind. But then like over 10 years of analyzing their career trajectories, they saw that the people who were givers pulled way ahead. I think that there's like this, I think it kind of really relates to this point you're bringing out, which is that like, if you're a person who's really desiring to help people, then people feel that and they ultimately want you to get ahead because they appreciate that. And it's not just a trade-off back to you. Everybody at some point is like on your team, and it'll save you from countless situations and help you in many others.
Right. So I'm starting to get here the notion that I wonder if the saving here is preemptive. Not like you're in a state, like in pasuk Daled, you're in a state of disaster and then you're being saved. Like that's the actual, what the pasuk actually says here. And I'm not getting this so much from the pasuk. I'm getting it kind of from the, from just thinking about the phenomenon, that I feel like these people will always have this support system who values them, that will like help them. They won't even get to the point where they're actually in danger. And that's why it doesn't specify being in danger.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so now what does that have to do with the second half?
Yeah, I was about to ask, how do we explain that with like at the end it says like, who is it saying they will be captured and trapped? Like, is that talking about the thing that one thing that's bothering me is that if we were saying that the Yasharim are saved from the capturing that the bogeid are doing, but it doesn't make sense because it sounds like it's saying that maybe that the bogeid themselves are captured and trapped.
Yeah. So I think that even though that was a creative approach to say that it's saving them from what the bogeid were trying to do or whatever, the way my mind is going now is if you look at the desire of the yashar and the desire of the bogeid, the desires are polar opposites. So the desire of the yashar just completely benefits him and it benefits everyone around him. It benefits everyone around him because it's tzedakah, and it benefits everyone around him because the tzedakah makes everyone, look out for him. And the bogeid, I'm going to go with desire right now, not destructiveness. Their desires, like, certainly it doesn't help other people, and it even ensnares them. So the subject here would be like, what's interesting. What's interesting here is like, okay, I'm going to say something kind of radical here, which is that, in Mishlei, then a lot of the focus is often on, mind over matter, on like making decisions based on your mind, and not letting your emotions make decisions for you. But what's interesting is the yashar has reached a level of perfection where effectively his following his mind and his following his emotions are both in his best interest, because they're aligned with each other, and it's interesting that like, he gets to this point where he can give in, and I don't mean like blindly giving in, but like he can, like, when he relies on his emotions and his mind are so synced up that like it ends up being good, and he can live a life where he's relying on his emotions, whereas the bogeid just completely gets destroyed when he does that. I don't know if that's the point of the pasuk. It's just an observation I'm making.
I want to argue a little bit about like
Sure.
the overall structure of the pasuk.
Okay.
I think that the focus of the pasuk is actually on the bogeid, and it's this idea of hoisted by your own petard, basically, like that his treachery will result in his own downfall.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the pasuk is directed towards I think the best way to understand it is with the metaphor of like a traitor and a good soldier.
Mm-hmm.
In that the yashar is a good soldier. He is aligned with the virtues of tzidkus that he stands for, and he acts in line with them. Whereas the bogeid is one who abandons those values in like a desperate circumstance or when it's advantageous to him. And the pasuk is directing someone in that position to say, no, don't abandon the path of the yashar. The good soldier, by virtue of his tzidkus, will be saved, even if it looks desperate. The tzidkus, which is the foundation of your yashras, will protect you. And the bogeid, even if you think like, oh, I'll betray them right now. Well, what are you going to do? They'll betray you later. You'll betray yourself again later. Meaning the treachery has no stability as a concept, and that's what I think the focus is.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea also. And I just want to, before I restate the idea, I think I was just because I was thinking about this movie lately, but the is it going to be a spoiler? Man. Well, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know. Well, we'll save it for the after party. Remind me of the example I was going to use. Okay, that way, whatever. But that way at least it won't get recorded. But so what Michael is saying is that, and it's in line with the approach we were taking, but you're right, structurally this is different, that the bogeid thinks he's really like creating a firm security for himself by being traitorous, but he's really annihilating he can't rely on anybody then. Like no one is going to have his back because they know he's traitorous. So the main difference is that what you were saying for the second half?
Yeah. And I think that's also the thrust of the pasuk.
Right. And the first half, I think, works out the same way we were learning before, right?
Yeah. Just like in general, good to be a yashar. That'll save you.
Yeah. So the main difference between the way Michael's learning and the way we've been learning it is that Michael's learning traitor with the emphasis on with traitor to other people, and that is the plain shot of traitor. Yeah.
Although I feel like the way Michael's saying it is you could elaborate or you could specify a little bit in the first half, meaning you can say the whole pasuk is, let's say, talking about a dangerous situation. And there's going to be two different reactions. You can either react like a bogeid or react like a yashar. And the bogeid thinks he's going to get ahead because he desires safety. But that desire, like of allowing him to overrule, his values or whatever, is going to get him captured. But the yashar who sticks to righteousness, that will be his path to safety. Meaning, it kind of, you can just blend them both into one scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
This is making me realize that I feel like there's more than meets the eye to the bogeid character that we're missing out on. Like the definition we had of that they are a traitor to themselves because they are ensnared by their own desires. I feel like it's weird to call them it is weird that he uses the word traitor. I don't know. I feel like we need to re-examine that. If it's okay with everyone, I'd like to switch gears and do the Rabbeinu Yonah now, because we've been building a theory based on the Rabbeinu Yonah, and I think it's time we turn to him for help. Okay, so not a super long Rabbeinu Yonah compared to the last ones, and I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do what Zach asked me to do last time, which is I will type it in English as I go. Okay, that we can have the English here. Okay, let me just make this a font that's reasonable. Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah says like this. I have to make it small just to fit it on the screen. And I have to make it Calibri because I'm neurotic. Okay. Tzidkas Yasharim Tatzilem. Okay. So he says, we have already explained, Kvar Biarnu, Ki HaYashar, that the Yashar, Hu Hamakir HaYosher, is the one who recognizes uprightness. uprightness, ubocher v'ohev yosher, and loves and chooses uprightness. Uprightness. Okay, so he has to have that recognition. Hine v'hine, behold, me ahavas hayosher, on account of his love of uprightness, yisbol kol davar hakasha shechayev oso hayashar lisbol. Okay, this is a beautiful portrait he's painting here. Okay, he will endure every harsh thing that it is necessary to endure. That his uprightness necessitates he endure. V'yachnia le'emes, and he will be submissive to reality. Okay, / the truth. Kasher amru mechabrei musar, as the Musar writers say, savol ha'emes v'im yemar, tolerate the emes is always a hard word to translate in Hebrew. It's either reality or truth. Okay, so I'm going to translate as both. Tolerate reality or bear reality. Bear, not bear like the animal. Tolerate. Yeah, tolerate is not the word in English. It was really to savil is to bear something. Bear the burden of reality. Okay, even if it is bitter. Okay, the ata, and now Hodia, Shlomo informs us, ki tzidkas hayashar, that the righteousness of the yashar, tatzilehu mina nazakim, will save him from what? From the harms habaim that come besibas savol ha'emes, from bearing the burden of truth or reality. We have to figure out what this means. Okay, I'm speaking in a tone of voice as if this all makes sense, but I want to translate the whole thing first. Okay, all right. So that's the first line. Okay, then he says, okay, so then he says like this: Uvahavus Rishon Bogdim. So this is the second part. Hold on, and I don't know how he's translating havus here. Hold on, did I just delete something? Okay, havus is. Oh man, he doesn't define it. So, and in the Hava'a of the Bogdim, they will be trapped. So he says Habogdim, the Bogdim, Habogdim Hanezarim b'sheker, who are assisted by falsehood. Yilakedu b'havuasam, will be trapped in their Hava'a. Okay, I don't know how he's translating Hava'a here, and he doesn't define it. He just says, he just explains it grammatically. Okay, so, but the key phrase here, I think, is who are assisted by falsehood. Keep your eye on this ball here. Okay, the assisted by falsehood and the truth and reality thing. Okay, last part, and then we'll have to figure out what all this means. Okay, I'm actually just going to delete this, or I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to make it small. Okay, so it's there. All right, fine. And here we have, now this is going to answer why Sadigon translated bogeid here as Russia. Okay, he says, behold, the trait of the bogeid is the opposite of the trait of the yashar. Kasher yisbar mikros ha'elu, as is clear from these psukim. Okay, the ode mikra mavur mehem. There is another pasuk, which clearly states kofir latzadik rasha v'sachas yasharim bogeid. A tzaddik is a ransom. Russia is a ransom for a tzaddik. Russia is a, I don't know if it's ransom or atonement. Is a ransom for a tzaddik. The tachas Yasharim bogeid, and a bogeid in place of Yasharim. Okay, so in other words, that also shows that they're opposites. Okay, but then he says like this: Gam harasha hefach hayashar. Also, a rasha is the opposite of a yashar, as as it is written, okay, the birkas yasharim tarum kares, in the blessing of the yasharim tarum kares, something something, uvafi rashaim tehares, and in the mouth of the rashaim, it will be destroyed. Okay, so all we need from that pasuk is the fact that they're opposites. So then he says, now here's his little methodology thing, or his terminology thing. Aval kishatavu lechavi mida hevech mida, but when Shlomo comes to juxtapose two opposite character traits, tasim habogeid hevech yashar, he makes the bogeid the opposite of the yashar, the harasha hevech tzadik, and the rasha the opposite of the tzaddik. And then the Rabbeinu Yonah pulls a Rambam phrase, ubinim b'dvarim. Understand this. These matters. Okay, which means there's something important he wants us to understand here. Okay, so let us just clean this up here. Okay, and then think about what Rabbeinu Yonah is saying. And I'm just going to put all the English together and all the Hebrew together, so I can have them on the screen. Okay. So Rabbeinu Yonah is putting an emphasis on this thing which he calls, his main point is this: on account of the Yashar's love for uprightness, Yisbol kol davar hakasha, he will tolerate or endure every harsh matter, sheyichayev oso hayashar lisbol, that his yasharness compels him to endure, v'yachnea la'emes, and he will be submissive to reality or to the truth. So that seems to be like his main emphasis here. And then he seems to say that the bogeid is the opposite of that, is the bogeid is assisted or supported by falsehood.
I might have a theory.
Go ahead.
It sounds like what I'm getting from Rabbeinu Yonah is that Shlomo is like responding to like we have a common phrase for it now, but maybe there was always some version of this, of ignorance is bliss.
Okay.
And so he's basically saying that in a sense, like ignorance is bliss, but he's now like sort of say playing it out for how people might, like the two characters would respond to that, a yashar and a bogeid. So a yashar will, so to speak, not care that ignorance is bliss. They're going to ignore the blissfulness of ignorance and pursue, the truth of reality, which comes with a certain kind of hurt, right? That's why ignorance is bliss, because you're unaware of certain hurtful realities and truths. But Rabbeinu Yonah is showing like that, or is pointing that Shlomo is showing that that the yashar is although he's going to be, so to speak, exposed to those painful realities, his constitution, so to speak, will change how he experiences those realities.
Right.
So for someone else, it might be painful, but he'll experience it differently by virtue of who he is.
Right.
And a bogeid is going to have these desires that he's pursuing. And so he's going to be constructing all sorts of false realities, and it'll be painful to tear those realities down because then he couldn't pursue his desires. So he's just going to like wallow in this blissful ignorance, which ultimately will ensnare him and capture him in, because he's operating in a false reality.
Okay. So that's really good. I want to find out more about how, so it's clear to me how that the bogeid is wrong, right? Like ignorance is not bliss, and he'll be, and by like pushing this out of his mind and like ignoring the bitter truths, then that's going to ultimately like not be in his best interest. I am curious though more about how the Yosher experiences these harsh realities. Like what does that look like for a yashar? How does that change his experience compared to the average person?
So I think there's a few ways, and I'll have to think about some of them, but just one simple way is that there's a certain joy in truth. So I mean, that's one little piece, but I think there's more to it. I just have to think about it a moment.
I mean, could we just say maybe it is just the exact direct opposite of what the bogeid does, is that because the yashar realizes the falsehood that the bogeid is ensnared by, right? The yashar realizes, I am not going to get anywhere by denying that this is the reality, or denying that this is happening, or denying that this is here, and like, because I love truth, then it is in my best interest to face truth head on, even if that hurts, and even if that's going to be painful to look at. So it's bitter, but he realizes that truth always leads to good, and facing reality always makes you better poised to get the most out of things than turning your face away.
I feel like we also say that like it will help him, like we're saying, in the long run. Like I feel like this is like the most, out of all the characters that we have learned about, I feel like this is the most like Mishleic-esque character.
I hear.
He's taking all those ideas and he's applying them not just for this one situation, let's say like with the Bogdan, but he's like really thinking about them, and how even though in the long run, even though in the short run it will be hard, like the long run will be beneficial.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is very much like in that sense.
I think the word bogeid brings out an aspect of the yashar, that he's like loyal to reality. So I think sometimes it's like difficult to be loyal to reality, but you just do it because you're loyal to reality. You don't.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good. That's a really, really good phrase. Yeah, and in fact, it reminds me of. I have no idea what shiur this was in. It's possible that you were in the shiur, Naomi, with Rabbi Moskowitz a very long time ago. But I remember doing a pasuk with Rabbi Moskowitz the first time I heard about bogeid. I remember Rabbi Moskowitz translating bogeid as a traitor to reality, and I remember thinking to myself, like, he's just reading this into the pasuk, like he's just, Rabbi Moskowitz likes talking about reality. He's just reading into the pasuk, but it really fits now, I think.
I think I remember. I didn't remember Rabbi Moskowitz, but that was a thought that was in my head.
That's
I thought of a possible analogy to help explain like how this like painful reality is beneficial for the yashar. Is sure, like, imagine
while you're talking, if anyone else can, if we can I want to come up with a few just real world examples to drive the point home. So yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, this is more of an analogy, but if let's say the goal is to get a lot of money, and you have an option, either you can put on a VR headset and you could go into a room that's just filled with piles of cash and grab as much as you want, or you could take off the VR headset and go into the real world and get a job. Like one of those is really easy and blissful, so to speak, blissful ignorance, and the other one will be very difficult and hard, but you'll actually end up with some actual money. Right. So the yashar is engaging in reality in a way that might actually get him real happiness, even though it's difficult. Whereas the bogeid is engaging in reality that's going to give him false happiness.
Right. Yeah, that is a good analogy. But again, let's. I think to really drive it home, we do need an actual example. So I'm gonna take a common example that I think we can all relate to in different ways. Like I think sometimes if you have a painful thing, a painful reality to face in a relationship, whether it is like you wronged somebody or they wronged you, or you made a big mistake that ended up hurting somebody, and something like that, it's very tempting to just kind of avoid, or there's a problem, or you have a relationship and there's a problem like rotting away at that relationship and no one just wants to talk about it, like it's very tempting to just pretend that doesn't exist, but like that just won't get you anywhere. It's just going to fester. It's just going to lead to more miscommunication. It's just going to it's going to blow up at some point. There's a fuse, it depends on I don't want to get into too specifics, but like there, a lot of examples of this you could choose from. And like the yashar is going to say like, look, like this is going to be really painful. This might end up being bad, but I know that the route to ultimate goodness is through the truth, and it's going to be bitter. And like, I have to just like suck it up and like face this, and like, if you've done that, that it does end up being better. Like it could be really painful, but like at the end of the day, just going around like trying to avoid the person who you upset or who upset you, or it just never plays out well, and just creates more conflict.
Wait, also, I'm just wondering, I don't know if like this was said before already, but can we say that the yashar is being saved from not necessarily like the bogdan, but saved from falsehood in general and the pain that falsehood causes and living a life like that causes, and then the bogdan are the complete opposite, and that not only do they not live by truth, but they're literally living by falsehood, therefore causing them the pain and getting them entrapped in whatever life that is.
Yeah, so I think we should say that, and I think right now the way we're doing it for Rabbeinu Yonah, the best way to translate it would be like this. Hold on, I'm just gonna move this down to Rabbeinu Yonah. So I think the best way that Rabbeinu Yonah goes is like this: the righteousness of the Yasharim will save them. Hold on, just 1 second here. Uvavos bodim yilachedu. Okay, and the bogdim will be ensnared in their sorry, I keep on spelling it with an E. Is that not, is it, oh, and oh, it is with an E. It's just I didn't have the other N. In their destructiveness that results from
engaging in false realities.
Yeah, faking themselves out, to borrow Roy Mosco's phrase. So, and this will save them from the harmful consequences that come from faking themselves out. Yeah. So in other words, it's funny, like the essence is unstated in the pasuk, but that's because it's implicit in the definitions. The yashar is someone who's attached to truth. And so the loyalty to truth will save them from all of the harmful consequences that come from like the person who's trying to avoid facing the truth and facing reality. And the bogdan will be ensnared in the destructiveness that results directly from like, faking themselves out and denying reality. That's what you're saying, right, Rifki?
Yeah, and I was also going to say that I think what Zach was saying before about that study with like the people in 10 years versus like right away, I think that also fits really well into what we're saying here. And like also through that, the people that are associating with the like Yasharim and then the people that are associating with the Bogdan, I feel like we'll clearly see the difference in the values between the two and the outcomes. And then like maybe it might even affect those people.
Right. Now that's true, but that's also making me realize I love this idea in the Rabbeinu Yonah. One of the most dissatisfying things to me is that it's not consistent with what we've been saying about tzedakah or tzidkas Yasharim. He's really not talking about interaction with other people, I don't think. And so I'm not sure how he's learning tzedakah here. It could be that tzedek is referring to the fact that the Yashar's entire being is in line with like the Rabbeinu Yonah said earlier in 11:3 that his koach hamisava and his koach, he said perfection in a human being. I just opened the file here. Rabbeinu Yonah said, v'hashlemus ba'ish, perfection in a human being is hakoach hachachma v'koach hamisava l'derech achas hi haderech hayosher, is when the rational faculty and the appetitive faculty are aligned with each other, and that's the upright path. So it could be that he's learning tzedakah here, not as tzedakah to other people, but he himself is in line with his nature.
But why couldn't we say that it includes interaction with other people? Meaning,
because according to him, the pasuk, he doesn't explain the pasuk in any way that talks about other people.
Well, but he talks about reality, meaning like, especially the way you view it as like a system, meaning like that would be kind of synonymous with reality. I mean, it might be more satisfying if he was explicit, but.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as an idea. I just don't think that's what he's saying, because I think he would, I don't know. I think he would have some nod to something that has to do with something.
Could I ask you to scroll a little bit down just so I could read it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's the moral of the story here? So the moral of the story is that
ignorance is bliss for a day, but not tomorrow.
Yeah, right. So the interesting thing is that like we've the yashar is, I mean, okay, maybe this is what you were getting at earlier about when you first said the idea, Zach, which is that I was saying that the yashar is going to he knows the nature of truth and attachment to truth, that you're always in the long run going to be better off not faking yourself out and just facing reality. But I think the additional quality that you mentioned, Zach, that the yashar is going to have is that recognition itself will give him a certain type of fortitude that will allow him to endure those harsh things. Like he'll be like, yep, I know that this really, really sucks. And like, I hate this and I hate this feeling, but like, I can make it through this because this is the thing that's going to be best for me. And that, in other words, that itself is going to prevent him from crumbling under the weight of the harsh reality.
Could I tweak it a teeny bit?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that, you know how like people could get addicted to like the gym, and like when they feel sore after the gym, it's like a great feeling. Right. They're like, oh, I feel so sore. It's amazing. But like someone who's never experienced that would just experience that soreness as pain because they don't associate that pain with growth.
Right.
So I think that for someone who's like pursuing reality this way, that constitution won't just make them like have the mental fortitude to like persevere through these harsh like reality conditions, but they're actually going to experience it differently. They're going to experience that as like getting closer to the true joy.
Yeah, so I think that is a form of it, but I want to acknowledge that there are other cases where the person is not experiencing that at all. For example, I think when a yashar like loses a loved one, then they might intellectually know that like this will lead to growth or whatever in the future. I don't think they're experiencing that joy now, but I do think that they're able to tolerate and experience the pain in a way that is different than the person who completely crumbles under it, and again, I did get a chance to see that just a little bit when Rabbi Moskowitz's son died. For those who don't know, Rabbi Moskowitz's son, Shmuley, who I really didn't know very much, very well. They say that in yeshiva, our yeshiva, they say that there are, I've heard multiple people say this, that they've only met two people who are like actual like geniuses, Rabbi Chait and Shmuley Moskowitz. And like, he had like a very dynamic personality from all the stories I've heard about him, but he basically got Legionnaire's disease, I think, which like, I think they thought it was pneumonia, or maybe it was pneumonia and it turned into Legionnaire's, and he was in his like 40s, and then just died like within a few weeks. And so I got to watch Rabbi Moskowitz throughout the whole mourning process and talk to him throughout that entire year. And obviously he went through a lot of pain, but I think I saw this quality of like his ability to sit with the pain and to know that like he's not going to get anywhere by like running from it, or like ignoring it or distracting himself from it. That's why the best word I could find is fortitude. Like he had a certain fortitude in just like, this is extremely painful. There is no joy in this whatsoever. Will this bring growth and development? Yeah, but that's not on his mind, and that's not affecting his experience. It really comes from just a relationship to reality itself, to someone who has been pursuing truth and reality and knows that it is always going to be better off than the alternative. It's just like, you just end up knowing what else is there, like lose myself in some distraction. Like that is just, the pain's just going to be there when I get back, and it's going to be even worse because I was avoiding it. That's why I'm using the word fortitude. So again, I'm not negating what you're saying, Zach. I do.
I think it's a good point. I like it. I mean, I think you just broadened my like view of it, because I was looking at it as purely like as an intellectual pursuit, not as an experiential concept of like feelings.
Correct. And I think that my emphasis fits in better with the language of the pasuk of saving. I think that if we want to emphasize like the delight or the joy or the growth, then the pasuk could emphasize a different quality. Like, we'll make them rejoice. We'll guide them. So I think our pasuk is focusing on this.
I think maybe saving is. I haven't really thought this through, but when a person gets old, then they have a lot less ability to overcome their emotions. So maybe the saving is like when a person gets old.
That's interesting.
Then they become just automatically their emotions are in line with their intellect, and they don't have to.
Yeah, it is interesting. I recently in the Mishlei Shiur read an excerpt from the Ran. I'm not gonna read it here again, but on aging with and without Torah. But I'm gonna post this in the chat in case you want to read it. That expresses that exact idea, but it's the Ran, and so he writes really well. There's a typo in it I know about it. I just haven't gotten a chance to change it. Okay, so can we summarize what we've got here? Okay, and I'm going to actually start from the end, from Rabbeinu Yonah, and then we'll go back and summarize whatever other ideas we had. So according to Rabbeinu Yonah, our pasuk is saying, the subject of the pasuk is that your relationship to yosher, to uprightness, will endow you with a fortitude that will enable you to will save you from the harms of denying reality, and also save you from the suffering that comes from that is experienced by the person who's constantly trying to deny reality. And the bogeid, who is living a whole life trying to avoid reality in order to sustain his desires, will fall into these traps. And when he falls into the traps, will have increased suffering because he's been building up this whole image of like nothing can go wrong, or like I will have these desires forever, and like when everything falls to pieces, then he'll be left with nothing, and it'll be a tremendous pain. So that's Rabbeinu Yonah. What ideas did we have now from earlier? Did we if anyone remembers? I used to have a rule, by the way, when I was teaching. I don't know if my class of 2019. I don't know if you guys remember this. It wasn't even a rule, I don't think. When I taught Mishlei in high school, I would only teach one idea per pasuk most times, unless it was such a drastically different idea. And the reason why is I think there is a detriment in learning many ideas on a pasuk in one shot, because you can't assimilate them or internalize them in the same way. Whereas if it's one idea, like if it's many ideas, it's easier for your mind to just take it and view it as like abstractions, and just like sort them into different things. But if it's like one idea that's like, there, I don't know. That's what I find. It's easier to internalize. But I'm also, yeah.
Do you mind quickly repeating again what we said about Rabbeinu Yonah? Because I don't want to like repeat if we already said it.
Yeah, Rabbeinu Yonah was saying that the pasuk is about the perks of the perks of attachment to reality, right? Is that if you are a yashar and you are striving for truth and justice, and righteousness, so then you will be able to, first of all, you'll save yourself from all of the actual consequences that the bogeid gets from denying reality, but also you'll save yourself from the suffering. You'll have the fortitude to withstand the suffering that comes from someone who's always trying to avoid reality and always trying to fake himself out and block stuff out of his mind that that's not in line with his desires. But it's not about, according to what we're learning, the pasuk does not seem to be, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, pasuk does not seem to be about tzedakah, about like helping and interacting with other people. Essentially, at least.
I'm just that last point. Like he starts off recapping that a yashar is someone who's
I know he does. He does, yeah.
So at some point maybe I'll think more about that. I feel like for now we have enough.
I'm open. Look, it would be great if it could be even more unified.
Yeah, maybe we can put it in the WhatsApp group afterwards.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, a good place to talk about it. Yeah. And it's, and I think just to support, his way of talking about it does support our way of learning, because he says here, he acknowledges that yashar is the opposite of a rasha. But then he says, when you're talking about midos, the yashar and bogeid are opposites, and tzaddik and rasha are opposites. And I feel like we've set that up so well that tzaddik and rasha have to do with how you relate to other people in the system, and then yashar and bogeid are your internal dynamics. And this pasuk fits squarely into that. It's just that the word tzidkas is just sticking out like a sore thumb. Okay, I think I would actually like to stop for today. I think that's a good summary note to stop on. I know we didn't summarize the original ideas that we had, but I think this is a good stopping point. I'd like to let this soak in. So let us stop the recording, and then I want to tell you the movie thing. Hold on.